Good morning. Good morning and good morning. Thank you for your patience in navigating the active traffic of our region. It's a sign of good things most of the time, unless there's an accident, of course. But anyhow, we have, I'd like to take a tour of our agenda today before we get into the roll call. So today, today's an important day for all of us. First of all, we're receiving, the Board of Trustees have passed a resolution for an academic and facilities master plan. This is, and you'll hear me talk about this later, but as you know, this is one of the most important areas of this institution because it's forward-looking, it's an outgrowth of strategic planning, and then it continues on into the master plan, which is the granddaddy of them all. So you're going to hear a presentation about that today. The agenda, we're going to see if we can accommodate the Senate report, move that up the agenda a bit, and we're going to move down agenda 4BE to later in the agenda. So you have to stay tuned with me on this one to get where we need to go for the agenda today. There will be a call for executive session, and we'll describe as we get asked for the motion to do that, why. And I would like to start out today by introducing Kelly LaFiana. Based on your action, we now have a dedicated individual that will be working to support the committees, as in the board. And Kelly is sitting in the seat. This is his first trip here in the hot seat. And we're glad that you're at the table. Thank you very much for being interested, and thank you, trustees, for making this happen. Any other items? If not, we'll call into a roll call. Item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Timothy Cowan.
Present.
John Elmore.
Here.
Todd Vogler.
Here.
Glenn Lenahan.
Here.
I am here. Dennis Murphy.
Present.
Susan Swartz.
Here.
Denise Wilson. Here. Kay Adebayo.
Here.
We have the quorum.
Very good. Thank you. Before we jump into it, I would like to, as practice, read our mission statement to center us for the rest of this agenda. And I'd like to ask our vice chair to read it today, if you wouldn't mind.
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Erie Community College meets the needs of a diverse student body and contributes to regional economic vitality by providing high-quality, flexible, affordable, and accessible educational programs committed to student success.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda? Items 1 through 4. Trustee Hobler? Secretary. Thank you. Trustee Lenahan. Any questions on the motion? Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to separate the talent management agenda from the rest of the consent agenda, please.
That would be item 4, so you'd like to amend the motion?
Yes.
Move to amend the motion. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. So all in favor, or any discussion on that? Vote by call. The vote is called. So to amend the consent agenda, removing item 4, an individual vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One noted. Thank you. The motion carries. So I will continue on, if you don't mind, items 1 through 3 of the consent agenda. And we have a second motion of the adjustment, discussion on items 1, 2, 3. That being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One person opposed. Motion carries. We will move the talent management agenda down into further in the report, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Keep things rolling along. And I'll ask the secretary to make sure that I remember this. Thank you. We'll move right into committee reports. Lead hitter in committee reports, Trustee Callan. Dr. Timothy Callan, I should say. Financial health.
Be the easiest report you'll ever get from me, Chairman Murphy. We had no meeting.
I will mark this down in history.
But I do, don't necessarily have to do it right now, but I do want to ask Ms. Howard a question about tips and bad debt. We can do that later under new business if you want, Chairman Murphy, instead of now, since there is no committee report.
Okay. Michelle. Financial health, thank you. Any questions for the committee? That being said, item number 2 is policy and governance coming up. And I have to say, I'm going to editorialize right now. As you can see, the activity of this particular committee has been relentless going forward. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I was just kind of saying a few words to you guys who know.
Good, thank
you. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate the feedback. So the Policy and Governance Committee met on September 14th. Before you, we have a proposed statement in support of undocumented students and support. The impetus of this was a statement by SUNY that we hope to emulate and add a little bit of our own spin to it. The things that we are proposing are that the college designate an undocumented DACA advisor and student advisor who can lead efforts to assess the existing practices here and provide advice and support on campuses to undocumented students. That the college identify a contact person at the beginning of the fall 2019 semester who can serve as a point person campus-wide for undocumented students. And that the college charge undocumented students the county tuition rate. And that the college consider the special needs and fears of undocumented students when they're designing emergency plans that require law enforcement agencies to come on campus. And we want to make sure that they're not any indiscriminate arrests or immigration enforcement. So if anybody has questions on this, this was something that the policy committee thought that we really needed to codify. Questions? Then I would move that we accept this proposed statement in support of undocumented students and support services.
Okay, we have a second. Discussion on the item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None shown.
Thank you. The second item is a board policy proposed on student immunization. This is just to get us in compliance with New York State public law. Students, before they're enrolled, have to show documentation of vaccinations and immunizations. So our policy is that if those students do not show the regulations as outlined, that they will be withdrawn and not permitted to return to college during the same semester that they were withdrawn. But if they do get their immunizations, they can attend the following semester once those requirements have been satisfied. The only amendment I would make to this on the follow-up is that this will be, of course, part of our policy manual, but we need to include this in the student handbook and that it's available on the website for incoming students so they know this requirement.
Do we have a motion?
I have a question.
Motion.
Motion down to that. How about a second? Second, thank you. Trustee Monahan. Now we can get on.
Kate, I don't know if the question's to you or somebody on staff. Most universities, such as UB, require students, whether you're an undergrad or graduate student, to fill out an immunization record. And they have to not just fill it out themselves, they have to have it signed off, notarized, or have a doctor stamp on it by a physician. What is our total, is this policy here sort of codifying that? I don't know who on staff might know the answer. What is the current policy for checking student immunizations so that this new policy would supersede it? In other words, what's the process or protocol? Does anybody know?
Chairman, I can address that if you like.
Sure. Thank you.
The current policy works through the New York State Department of Health to identify students, report students, and look up immunization records in the NYSDOH database. We do collect immunization records from doctors directly from students, and we also check that database, that statewide database, to determine whether the student already complies.
So if a student in checking that database doesn't have certain immunizations, what do? We tell them, no, you can't register or show up to class, or?
We request those records right after the application, admissions application, and obviously once they are enrolled and that 30-day clock begins, then we also start looking for those records by directly contacting the school. And I think you talked about my application.
We do extensive outreach to students as well, to meet them at their class, and we refer them to the community health centers that we have nearby next to the different locations and urgent care, the MASH office office, they do them as well. So we don't just rely on the student bringing them in, but we do a lot of outreach to them. And we maybe have had 3 or 4 students in the last 5 years that were impacted by this policy.
So in other words, this isn't a response to a problem, it's simply tying up, tightening policies. Okay,
What we're trying to do.
thank you.
It's part of the process of advancement versus
Thank you.
reaction. It's nice and refreshing to see. We have a second, so we'll call the vote unless there's any other discussion. On item number 2, all those in favor? Any opposed? None being shown. Motion carries. Item number 3.
Thank you. Next is a board policy on privacy. So this is in response to the General Data Protection Regulation Law that is international, I believe. So, and it's about making sure that information that we share or that any of our stakeholders share via our website or any other collection is maintained, their privacy is maintained. We have included a Appendix A of the current privacy procedures, and I would just say in the actual policy piece, the last sentence which says, "These standards and procedures shall be made available to students and staff via annual training and communicated by link to private policy via the website." There should be a period there, and it should say the current version of privacy procedures are attached as Appendix A. So just a little snafu on the editing there. So, but any questions on this?
Do we have a motion? So moved. Thank you. Second. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Comfortable on the grammatical change? Very good. All those in favor? Any opposed? None being stated. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next policies we have are managerial policies, first being the Code of Student Conduct policy. There were just a couple of formatting issues in this policy. I just want to point out that in the issuer statement of purpose, we're saying we want to be in compliance with SUNY, not SUNY at Buffalo, so I'm asking you to strike at Buffalo in the statement of purpose. And what this code of conduct does really is revise the conduct regulations and defines what violations are. So the second bullet here should read, explain applicable procedures, definitions, and SUNY Board of Trustee policies. It should be one bullet. And the last bullet should just say result in rather than resulting in. Just a little, again, formatting issue. But this covers so many issues that are unfortunately very topical, including harassment, hazing, sexual misconduct, drug violations, parking violations. We really tried to make sure alcohol policy, that every instance where there may be issues related to students and their conduct, we really want to spell out so that everybody is understanding what the expectations are, and we have clear, transparent rules that will be communicated at orientation, on the website, in the handbook, and in our policy manual. Are there any questions on this? I would also note that on page 65, the title is missing. It just should be Appendix A, Classification and Guidelines. So,
Since this is not an actual item, it's a receiving item,
Right.
we can make those corrections as received as long as the concepts are in order.
there.
Sounds very comprehensive, and once again, I think it's forward-looking instead of reactionary. Thank you. Any other items?
Yes, next is the Student Grievance and Academic Decisions Policy. This probably looks familiar to you because we approved it in April, or accepted it rather in April, April 26th. This reason that this came back to us is because we needed to say that our Student Grievance of Academic Decisions Policy explicitly does not govern violations of Title IX, which has its own separate procedures. So while we were at it, we thought we would add an appendix that offers a sample grievance log to be used when an academic grievance is logged, and we included procedures such as the chain of reporting, response time frames, and we established an appropriate adjudicating committee. So this is really just, again, making sure that we are very clear and that Title IX has its own set of procedures that need to be followed.
Any observations? Thank you. You want to address anything on capital asset policy?
Is that next?
You got it. You can be anywhere you'd like it to be, as long as we get them all.
The no contact order next, is that?
Just before that, we have the capital asset policy.
Pages.
That would be 63.
I'm sorry, so I skipped, is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that.
Yes. This policy is just looking to ensure that there is a method for acquiring, accounting, maintaining, and disposing of our assets. It's the individual cost centers that are responsible for this, and this just really outlines what the procedures are, or rather what the policy is to govern the procedures, to make sure that we're not misusing or losing or misappropriating college resources.
Okay, thank you.
And that was the appendix that I meant. So I just wanted to stick that. So page 65 should be titled Appendix A, Classifications and Guidelines. Sorry. I skipped it. Does anybody have questions on this? And I would move that we don't have to vote on this
Nope.
because it's managerial.
We accept those. Those are it. In addition to that, you've got our minutes.
Yes, minutes
Yep.
from,
We have the no contacts.
yes. So the no contact order is just codifying that a dean of students or the vice president for facilities and security are authorized to issue a no contact order prohibiting contact between students and staff when there exists this reasonable concern of physical or psychological harm. The violations of no contact orders are subject to discipline under the student code of conduct policy that we have passed, and the college will review these NCOs annually to make sure that the case is still valid, or if somebody withdraws or graduates, then it gets dismissed. And there's a process by which both parties can ask that it be rescinded.
So is that like no contact at all, or no harmful or offensive contact?
Well, on page 92, it outlines some of the procedures that we're trying to do to make sure that people don't come into contact with each other. So it's restricting them from being close proximity. It's enforcing any kind of legal protections that might exist. Restricting students' access to a certain campus, certain courses, athletic, after-school events. So, it's trying to ensure the safety of all parties and to make sure that people feel safe on campus.
So it sounds like it's trying to keep people physically out of sight or in yelling distance, for lack of a better.
Well, there's also, social media and email, and there's other, besides physical contact, that are covered as well.
That's fine, yeah.
As, as this is all managerial receiving, I just wanted to ask the president if he's comfortable and confident with this particular policy, because many of them impact student activity. TK has any comment? You're all good? Okay.
Actually, I want to say we appreciate TK's involvement on the policy committee. It really is wonderful to have a student voice at the table, and we thank you for your input.
Thank you.
I think that's all I have to report.
And we've got some minutes that
Yes.
are going to the record.
There.
And if you don't mind, from 5:18, 6:22, and 8:17. My pleasure. As noted. It's coming up just before 9:30, and we have a small special situation. I'm going to go a bit out of order and ask for the Senate report to be conducted, if that's okay with you. Is that all right?
Mhm.
Thank you. Ellie? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you going out of order for me. I have a doctor's appointment for my son that we could not reschedule. So thank you, Dennis, for letting me sneak ahead. We had our first of the academic year meeting in September, and we had our 3 new student reps attend, and Trustee Lanyan also attended. It was a very nice meeting. We got a lot accomplished. We went through a lot of updates, especially with middle states and what we can do to support departments and divisions in the preparation for the visits. We asked all the different departments and divisions to invite us and invite our assessment mentors and our middle states team to attend department meetings so that we can help everybody prepare with potential questions that middle states could be asked. So we're looking for how to assess your programs within your unit, what changes have been made based on assessments, and how each unit and division is meeting Standard 6 requirements. So we've been very aggressive in that campaign, making sure that everybody is prepared for the visit coming up next week already. With that, we've been doing a lot of work with the General Education Committee and working quite closely with the chair and the co-chair of those committees, and making sure that we're sending out all the information that Gen Ed is pushing out for our ILOs and ILO reports, with how that information can help all of our departments and divisions in answering the assessment questions for middle states, and also just really making sure that it's a college-wide effort to make sure that everybody understands and we incorporate it in our syllabi and our department goals and procedures. So with that, we've also updated a syllabus template that we've been working on for a little bit. We tweaked it a little bit over the summer, and then we finally accepted it in September. So with the syllabus template, it's ADA compliant, it's more streamlined for faculty and for students so that it's more consistent across the board. It's not a required document, it's recommended because faculty do have academic freedom in that area, but we are asking that everybody has the content of the syllabus template included in it. Make sure it has things like starfish notification, student access center, our academic integrity, and then specific things that students will need for their courses, whether or not they have, which classrooms, times, textbooks. One of the tips that one of our students asked is instead of just having the ISBN, making sure that besides the title, we also include authors and specific years that textbooks are published, so that it's easier for them to find the required texts at places outside of the bookstore. So we made sure all of that was included, and again, they are all ADA compliant, so screen readers and things like that can easily interpret them for our students. We had Rena and her team came from ITS to give everybody a rundown on Workday and how it's been going with that, and it seems from our end it's been pretty seamless so far, so that's all very good news. And then we also had Beth Howard, who's a caseworker for the Student Hearing Moms group that works with Dr. Sharp's office, and it's moving our mothers from education to employment. It's a relatively new program. We're trying to get the word out to our students and to our faculty, and it works with our single moms that are students here at the college. They do a lot of different things to support them with academic support, counseling, academic or personal, child care support, career coaching, and other types of assistance that could possibly impact the students and try to eliminate some of the barriers for these particular moms. And that was really wonderful presentation, and really helped to get that word out, because one of the top recruitment activities for the program is faculty recommendations. So the more faculty that know about this, the bigger the program can grow to assist our students. Our next College Senate meeting is Tuesday, October 9th, and it's at 2:30 in the same room as it has always been, in B207. And I encourage everybody to feel free to attend. We also stream it online, so you're welcome to watch it online as well.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Can that be seen at the college's YouTube channel that we saw the provost presentations on?
Isn't streaming?
Yes, yes, it can. Looking at Bobby's, like, yes, counting that. Thank you for that. Always one of our top supporters makes sure our meetings go very smoothly for us.
Thank you. Good point, Tim. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So just
We will go back to the next item, committee report of advancement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Advancement Committee had its first meeting on September 14th.
Yay.
And I'm pleased to report that there's a reinvigorated energy around understanding that financial health of the college is important, and the Advancement Committee plays a critical role in that. We had wonderful representation from the Foundation Board on the Advancement Committee, so it's a wonderful synergy that's happening between the body that's dedicated to raising funds for SUNY Erie and the Board of Trustees, so that we are rowing in the same direction. We are looking to really establish a culture of giving among not just current stakeholders, but alumni and other people who are in the community, all touched by SUNY Erie. We are coming up with some new guidelines that we think we'd like the board to understand, so we are asking for the Advancement Committee to have an education section of an upcoming board meeting prior to year end. Is there anything you would add to this, Mike?
No, I think we spent some time talking about a mission statement for the Advancement Committee that we've been working on. And then we also just suggested to the board members we are soliciting outside experts for that committee. That was one of the intents of creating that committee. Was if anybody had ideas to bring outside expertise into the college, that's a good forum for it. So if you have names or suggestions of people or companies perhaps that you'd like to be involved, I think we would accept that.
Wonderful. And on a side note, I'm bringing a group of clients to SUNY Erie on October 18th to learn more about the MOMS program. And it's often, these individual programs may be very exciting to some potential donors who want to not just contribute to general operations of the college, but to a specific program. So when there are those opportunities that you know of, please talk to us and we will work on getting some avenues for you to bring people to learn more about the programs that exist here at the college.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I'm going to do a little marketing promotion for the committee. So according to our October calendar, you're on, again, on October the 12th, is that correct?
We are, but then the policy committee meeting has been posted, the time has changed for the policy committee to 2 o'clock, which is reflected there.
But this is still on the
Yes,
12th.
we are on 12 to 11.
There you go. So if you're interested, calendar will guide you. Strategic planning and assessment updates. Well, there's a lot of things to talk about today. As I mentioned to you, the lead hit item is obviously the master plan, academic and facilities. That has begun, and of course the educational session today is introducing and discussing that presentation. So there's not a lot of detail, at least in the strategic planning report, other than saying how important and groundbreaking it is for this institution on a going forward basis. We can expect to have some dates coming out as the officers decide on a going forward basis for a retreat. In addition to that, in the near future, over the next 2 weeks, Kelly will be issuing a doodle poll to you immediately based on, we're going to have a meaningful vision conversation with the president and discuss items that we've all looked forward to discussing. So that will happen. We're going to set a 4-hour session for that. So please, if as soon as possible, would you respond to the doodle poll as it's issued? We can get that out. That was an outgrowth of we're doing the president's review discussion. The next item is, and for the record, the trustee self-evaluation assessment is complete. And if you do not have a copy of it, we will make certain that you do. I believe they were distributed by Vice Chair Swartz last meeting. And of course, in our protocol or tradition, it's historically been discussed and reviewed under the annual retreat. That's really all I had for this particular subject. I'm trying to save time for 2 important items, which is obviously the middle stage report and of course the master plan. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Student success and diversity, co-chairs.
Okay. I will defer to Rick and Steve for following up on these items.
I'd like to call the Frank Carter up to talk about the access.
Ah.
That's what that was.
We requested the college approves the contract with Deaf Access Services, who is an Erie County vendor, has been doing business with the college, providing American Sign Language interpretation for a period of probably about 20 plus years. It also serves many other county offices. This would provide a reasonable accommodation of sign language interpretation for our students, and also an option for faculty and staff. We have been fortunate enough in the last few years to reduce our expense in this area, as Access VR and vocational rehab for adults has taken on more of this cost for students at college.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
So moved. We have a second. Trustee Lanian, thank you. Any questions or comments on the initiative? Motion before you. I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? Any opposed? None being shown?
Thank you all very much.
Carries. Item number 2.
Resolution requested. Handle that.
This is a happy old one, so we can talk about inventive. It's a little bit of change in contract.
Brief update on this. We secured board approval several months ago on this contract amendment. Appreciate that. Purchasing did come back to us and request that we also secure county approval for the amendment. We originally did not think that we would need that approval because the amendment itself was under the threshold, but we were advised to go ahead and seek that. So what we then needed was explicit approval of the resolution sent to the county and the request sent to the county. No additional costs are being incurred by this, as those were already approved by the amended contract by the board several months ago.
So, Bobby, if you stay up, because I think there's going to be a couple of questions as we go along. So let's get a motion on the table for this one. We have a motion, we have a second on the discussion. I just want to make sure that all the trustees are aware. This is something we have approved. Please be aware that we're adding another module to this. Is that correct? Can you explain that? And because this, as you said, this will be going back for the legislature, therefore, people may be discussing this with you. So I think it's important for everyone to be aware.
Yes, like most software packages these days are sold in terms of modules. We purchased already 3 modules in the Adventure Suite, and those are all implemented now, fully implemented. We're actively using them. Those modules allow us to drive data to units. They also allow us to create planning and assessment structures for units, and those have been instrumental in developing our response to the USA's mission. What we do think we can do better and more efficiently with the addition of the new module is connecting data to planning explicitly, more directly. So if you think of it, the ideal sort of situation we want to achieve is we want our managers and stakeholders to be looking at data while they make decisions. In order to do that, it is important to bring those separate modules together, and this module does that. So it's the next phase of our evolution toward a more directly analytical assessment process.
Any comments on the motion before you? None being said, call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? None being shown? Carries. 2, thank you. Then we're down to curriculum and student success committee minutes.
Any questions on the minutes of the July 18th meeting?
I did note in there that there was a recommendation that students that are going to be in housing program and can just be given some type of financial literacy training, and I'm wondering if there are plans to do that in place, or is that something that's on?
Yeah, that is something that's definitely in place for the future of this program here. We want to make sure that students understand their commitment to the college, to Canisius as well, if they decide to, especially if they're going to start borrowing
at a heavier level. So we need to make them aware of the different practices that are available to them, whether it's loans, whether it's making third-party loan requests, and making sure that students understand the implications associated with those things.
I want to say as well, the SGA is going to have part of my program of Facts of Life series.
Called Facts of Life?
Yeah, Facts of Life.
Can I use those?
Yes, sir.
It's been a few years since I was in college or as an undergraduate.
You can tell us how many if you like. If you like.
Not as many as some others in there. For students that are living in Canisius, is living in the dorm part of eligibility for financial aid, or is it only tuition, fees, books, things like that?
If the student lives on campus, since we are the tenant officially, all right, they're paying us, so the cost associated with attending and living on campus at SUNY, well, at Canisius, it's an extension of us. Students are fully eligible to receive financial aid to cover all of that.
Do you have any knowledge? I mean, the housing was told to us that a lot of the people living there would be athletes, mostly football players, but not exclusively football players.
Right.
So, I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have the answer right now, so you can follow up offline by email to the board. But I'm curious in knowing, in terms of financial aid, what are the repercussions of students living in the Canisius dorms? You know, how many of them are getting financial aid?
Right, so you'd be looking for some aggregate data.
I don't understand how creating that dorm environment.
Yeah, that's a good idea. No, we can certainly provide that. Yeah, we'd have to go through and do some mining on that one, but provide aggregate data about number of students on aid.
In other words, there's 60 students living in the dorm, 40 of them are athletes, all 40 have financial aid, and they got more financial aid to cover the cost of living in the dorm. Because if you live in a private apartment or house, you don't get financial aid for that.
You get cost of living in your financial aid. It's different when you're living on campus versus off campus.
Okay. Yeah, you can give us some.
It's dramatically lower. If you're living off campus on your own, yeah, it's dramatically lower.
There you go.
We get a report offline, you know, whether it takes a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's very doable. Not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Trustee Wilson.
Actually, it's not regarding the minutes, so I think we have a motion to approve.
These are the minutes we're receiving.
Okay.
So it's not a motion action.
So I just wanted to add, as far as that, the student success, curriculum student success and diversity committee meeting, we had robust discussion about the Northland Training Center and our progress or status of where we were there, and also talked about ongoing for the next semester. And I think it would be helpful if maybe Steve or Fabio, someone would just give a quick report on that. And then also, regarding the equity and diversity, we also have a robust discussion on Dr. Jane Smith, Dean Smith. She reported out a lot from that committee and activity, and going forward, how we would, we had a lot of questions that had to go back to the committee, and so she's passing information back. So we should have a good report for our next board meeting regarding the questions that we asked during that, to that advisory council, I believe it's called. And then also I think this will also be a great space for us to talk about our, the presentation that Steve presented for the enrollment management.
I have that under marketing, so.
Perfect, okay, never mind. All right. Okay.
And would it be okay if we could end your report, President McCoy, if we just do some briefing on the Northland?
Yep, I'll do that.
Thank you. Perfect. That work okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Beautiful. Anything else for committee? None being said, move on to the item report of the chair. All right, sounds good. I like that.
Don't worry, that's all close off.
And I wasn't going to say anything about the brief financial committee report that kept us in line.
Oh, I know your any strategy for.
We have deep respect for your consideration today. Thank you. The general report, I would just like to provide a little feature of the day and say thanks to two people, the vice chair and our secretary, for a moment. Our vice chair has been a conduit for us amongst our committees, back and forth in levels of participation, and provided some great emotional support to the staff, to the people, and to the leadership. And that I would like to personally thank you. To our secretary, who's always smiling no matter what situation's going on. And I don't think your husband touched it. I think it's come natural. You know, from a non-existent policy committee that we had in history that was totally reactionary, at least for the records that I know in our history, we have moved from not only, as you're seeing, today was a shining example of that, is more of a forward-looking policy initiatives, both at the board level and managerial level. And to the level now that, frankly, with the most recent MICCT meeting, it was discussed statewide that we're now another example of what to do as a leading organization. So I'd like to thank the Secretary for that. Thank you. On the ad hoc committee reports. Marketing is lead, and Mike, when Trustee Wilson was mentioning, Trustee Lenahan conducted a briefing for enrollment recruitment session that was held, I think it was just last week. Would it be okay if you kind of give us a briefing and talk about that and some marketing?
I'm trying to think which.
Well, where Steve.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were speaking of another meeting. Yeah, we had a very good meeting with Steve and some of the trustees and some of the staff, and you know, we talked about an overall plan for enrollment going forward a number of years, and I think we can feel comfortable in the fact that Steve has come up with a well thought out plan, particularly compared to where we were, perhaps some years back, and not too far back. But I think we've got our handle on what the key issues are, and I know I'm pleased, and I think TK was at the meeting, and I think everybody that was on the phone feels confident that we can move forward, knowing that everybody's working together to try to achieve what we need to achieve to get to where we want to with enrollment. So I don't know if there's any questions, but I know I'm ready to move forward with making this position permanent. And Steve, any comments on your end?
No, I think it was a good conversation. I thank everybody for the opportunity to have presented that. I do have the ability to, at a later date, to share copies of the enrollment plan. As you suggested, this is a step from where we were and is leading us into the campus master plan, where we're going to be working with the vendor there to get an idea as to our facility needs and our academic needs and bringing all that together.
One thing I'm impressed with is just the variety of activities that it takes, or functions I should call more than activities, from the point of initial interest from the student to what has to go on with financial aid, what has to go on with marketing, and just a continuum of processes that have to gel together to make this thing work. And I think the plan that Steve has laid out is going to make those work. And I know we've got a lot of challenges. We're competing with a lot of other schools. There's declining, population coming out of the high schools. But I think working together, we know we're going to have a good, solid plan forward. Putting our best foot forward.
Any comments for those that were on the call or in present? Any observations to share with the President and Trustees?
I just had a quick follow-up question, whether to Steve or Dan. Dan, thank you for your email back to me last week about the enrollment question. You indicated in your email it might take a couple more weeks for the advanced studies and pathways students for that data to shake out.
Right.
Would that be like next week? We might when will we have a firmer number on?
I can give you a as of yesterday update because it's a lot clearer. As most of you know, our funding sources come from three places. One is from the county, which is determined and fixed for the year. The other two are more variable, that from tuition revenue, and the other from FTE, which is state-based. Right? With regards to our headcount, we're down about 200, but we're up with regards to the second pool of revenue, which is FTE. So we're up 431 for that. So right now it's looking like we're on budget, and so in terms of your questions earlier via email as to what we're going to do, and I, if indeed we are below budget, we would do a program prioritization analysis to see what we would need to cut. But that would be premature at this point because we are currently on budget. Advanced Studies will not finish its enrollment until October 19th. We've seen a huge increase in that. And we're still waiting for Pathways. Again, this contributes to the FTE number, the state funding. And those numbers won't be finalized until the first week of October. So, but right now it's looking really good.
So last week we were indicating we were down 5% on headcount and FTE.
We still are about 5%.
5 to 6%.
Yeah. 5, yeah. But the exact number is about 200. And but again, the FTE, which is the state funding number, we're up 431.
So just to clarify, we're down about 200 FTEs compared to fall of 17. That trend?
Not FTEs.
Oh, no, you said it's headcount.
Headcount.
Sorry.
All right, I want to be very precise.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. So again, the two variable sources of revenue is based on tuition from headcount. We're down 200 for that. And the other is state funding based on FTE, and we're up 431 for that.
Wow.
So again, there's still numbers coming in.
So for us less technical individuals, we're saying that the net positive and negative were still in line with the budget,
Yes.
or current forecast.
Yes.
Yes.
So that we're all comfortable understanding
Yes.
top line. Yep. Just want to make sure that we're all understanding the same thing. Thank you. Back to the marketing piece in the presentation. Any other questions that related to that particular meeting? I thought it was very helpful.
That was great.
Thank you for making it available to listen in on.
And then a follow-up conversation with Steve Smith after that meeting, and just stress the importance. The entire student government is very serious about front-facing employees and really having support from their leadership to make their experience as good as possible, that it translates into a beautiful, seamless student experience. And the technology side and getting students handed out was great. Just really buckle down and really make sure that everything is seamless moving forward. So thank you, Steve, for meeting with me.
No. Any other comments before we move on?
Just in conjunction with marketing, Paul and I have met, and we're going to be scheduling our next marketing meeting, I think soon. We'll clarify that after today's session. And then for the next meeting, we'll have a report on that.
Super. Thank you. Next item is technology. For those that have been following the emails going back and forth, the rollout of Workday and updates, it speaks for itself. Mr. President, I don't know if you'd like to have anybody just give us a brief update, but I can tell you from reading the emails back and forth, and not only are people on top of, as you know, and as Tim has pointed out with our experiences, nothing goes perfect in any kind of these things. I don't care what institution you're in. But by reading the emails back and forth and being proactive, I thought this was a very proactive initiative. And my personal thank you based on what I've seen so far. So we have a little report on that and where we are.
Yeah.
If there's been any particular initiative glitches or things that we should be aware of.
No, actually, Nina, I thought we provided, but Nina did a one-page summary of how things are going. We ran our first payroll last week, and it went off without a hitch, so thank you, IT team. And Mina very much for leading this endeavor. We, on the finance side, you know, we're working our way through the invoices and those processes, and, you know, as we bump up against stuff, we tweak it and fix it and keep moving. So right now, everything's working well. All the testing really paid off. Mina has a very rigorous testing schedule along with Workday and IBM, who's implementing this with us. So all that testing paid off because we are having a relatively smooth implementation of the finance, HR, and payroll modules.
Yes, sir.
When is IBM going to be ending the engagement with us?
So right now they are in post-go live, so they're helping us clean up some of the tweaking. We were in the contract based on everything that got signed, a year and a half ago. And the way that we went into that contract, they will continue to be our provider moving into the student services piece. Workday has also joined us, especially on the Workday or the student side, since it's such a new module. They're co-partnering with IBM very tightly on this. We have basically meetings with them about every 2 weeks, like together and then separately, to ensure that as we launch the first phase of the student implementation, we have the correct SOW in place to make sure statement of work is robust and comprehensive and covers all these things that we've been talking about. And then the next, I think there's 4 or 5 phases of student work, of the student piece going live, coming on board on fall 2020.
So IBM will not be ending. You and I had some discussions about a month or two ago.
Yeah, and after we looked at everything a little bit more closely, they will continue to be our implementation partner moving into students. So
Have they stabilized their staffing with their staff assigned to our engagement?
They are. We're made aware that we're not completely thrilled with the rollover and turnover that happened during our finance, payroll, and HCM implementation, which is also why Workday has also stepped in to try to help coordinate the stability of the staffing that's provided by them. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to recognize Penny and especially Mina and her team for making sure that we are on budget and on time. Actually, we're meeting with the Workday team tomorrow. They're flying in, and so they're very helpful in making sure that this is as seamless as possible.
Well, and they are really invested in making this succeed because we are their first in the institution, and if we look good, they look good.
So that eagerness to participate, to get a city presence, I think is very beneficial specifically to our institution, most importantly to the staff. Thank you. That's a report on technology, unless there's any other questions. We'll move along to the next item, number 3, or C, curriculum. Trustee Hogler, and if I could just make a remark from last meeting and your request that we took consideration. For the record, I'd like to ask the secretary to review the bylaws for next meeting, in October, to see if we can just, as you know, our standing committees are reflected in our bylaws. So if we can just simply add curriculum back into an existing committee without making requiring a bylaw change, we'll look and then have that answer for you, see if that can take place, or we may have to do a bylaw adjustment. We'll find that out, have that answer out, and report out in next meeting.
Very good. Well, we folded the curriculum committee into the student success committee, and we were in attendance at that meeting. So that's where we're at, and to formalize that, let the process unfold.
It would be nice if we don't have to make any changes,
right.
But we may have to have a bylaw adjustment. Okay, thank you, sir. Anything else? Any questions on curriculum? Next is talent management. So talent management, we moved from the consent agenda out the talent management agenda for September 27th. So I'd like that to be the business of the committee report, if you wouldn't mind.
There was no meeting this month for that.
Okay. No meeting taking place?
No.
So then what we'll do is,
We had a call on the 17th.
Yes, we did have a phone call regarding the, but we didn't have a meeting, we just had a discussion about the the agenda, not the agenda, right.
So,
The employees and changes and stuff like that we did, that's all we dealt with, who was on changes.
Sure, Murphy, what I'd like to do in terms of the agenda, since I made the motion to separate it from the consent agenda, is I'd like to separate sections 3 and 4 from the talent management's agenda, approve the balance of the report, and then we can have a separate vote on sections 3 and 4.
One second, sir. Let's try to get this up correctly.
Yeah, where's that?
Okay. Give me a moment. The talent management is always labeled this way, so when I bring in my computer, I can change the view around. Okay, yep.
What is it?
So, we have a motion on the table. Has someone seconded the motion?
I'll second.
Second on the motion, so now we can have discussion on it, so we can explain, I'll have an understanding. So Sam, you've initiated the motion?
I simply can't support the proposed actions in sections 3 and 4 based on the call that we had on the 17th and some of the explanations. And, I don't have a problem with sections 1 and 2 or the other actions in the report. I'm sure that the full board will approve the agenda and all the actions, but I want the opportunity to vote no on the reclassification and the pay raise for an SES member and the reallocation and creation of a new job for a different employee.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about specifics of, we had a lot of dialogue on the call. It was a nearly hour-long call. John has some similar concerns on some of this, but I have profound concerns about several of these, and I just can't support it.
Okay, so we have, just so we're all following how we're going to proceed on this, we have a second discussion on a proposed amendment to the talent management agenda, which proposes that we separate section 3 and section 4 out, which would be then up to the board to have the opportunity to have individual consideration, or if the board so pleases, by vote, you can decide just to take the talent management agenda as presented. So, any other discussion on, first of all, dividing out section 3 and section 4 before we call the vote? That being said, so the motion is to separate section 3 and section 4 from the overall talent agenda. All those in favor? All those opposed? That being said, that motion carries, so section 3 and section 4 are separated. Do we have a motion to accept section 1 and 2 of the talent management agenda? Okay, thank you. Kelly, you can.
Pick one.
Right, there you go. But we have more than 2. So now do we have discussion on items 1 and 2 of the talent management agenda? None being said, all those in favor? Any opposed? One opposed? The motion carries. Now, on continuation, so we're all aware, would the board like to entertain a motion to individually accept items 3 and items 4? We'll have to have a motion to move.
I would suggest maybe there to be a discussion in executive session on those issues.
So you'd like to defer the vote? If there's no motion, we'll defer the vote until later in the business of the college. So, okay, we'll move on. So our next item would be talent management. We're moving item number E down to right after learning opportunities this morning. And then we'll move on to the report of the president. Yes, it's Mr. President, good day to you, sir.
In terms of academic affairs, we have a collaboration between St. Mary's Hospitality and Dietetic Technology Program to teach a track in culinary medicine. and that's underway now. And this semester, 9 lesson modules will be offered to SUNY Erie dietetic and culinary students, as well as Duville dietetic students. And this is under the supervision of Meg Garfoot from our dietetics program. And all costs associated with the program are covered by a $25,000 grant from the Stafford Foundation. So distance learning, this is a new source of revenue for us, has seen an increase of 10% in seats filled over the fall of 2017. And affordable instructional materials, in terms of course section count, is up 43% from last fall, which is of great benefit to our students. So I want to recognize our distance learning committee, as well as Paul Sandy for their good efforts in advertising our distance learning offerings, as well as our faculty in making the effort to make it more affordable to get an education in SUNY area. And per Denise's request for an update about Northland, the Northland Workforce Training Center opened a few weeks ago with 47 SUNY area students taking 2 sections of mechatronics and 1 section of CNC precision machining. And so great thanks to John Sliz and Steve Tucker and his team for making this happen on time. There's one issue to be resolved, and that concerns a requirement from SUNY that our Northland students take at least 1 course on one of our campuses. And so it's a requirement, and so we're working out the best ways to make that happen. One of our advanced CNC students, Andrew Nicosia, under the tutelage of instructor Nate Wachowski, took first place for his vacuum engine design in the post-secondary division of the National Master Cam Wildest Parts Competition. So his part will be on display throughout the year as Master Cam travels the country to different conferences. So congratulations to our student Andrew for that. From Student Services, on Tuesday of this week, all 3 campuses held events to celebrate the National Voter Registration Day to encourage students to register to vote. And more than 50 students were registered to vote in the upcoming November elections because of these events. Student Affairs is chartering a chapter of the National Society of Leadership and Success at SUNY Erie. 148 students from across all 3 campuses have registered to participate in this inaugural class. Through this program, our students will participate in a leadership training intensive workshop, networking team meetings, as well as 3 live simulcast speaker events. And the first speaker, scheduled for October 16th, is Dr. Oz. The Starfish retention tool is up and running for our faculty and students for this semester. So far this semester we have raised 4,323 tracking items with 199 unique faculty members contributing. More than 3,500 of those tracking items were kudos, telling our students they were off to a great start. Heather Cruz is working with the marketing team to develop some short videos for YouTube, highlighting our faculty and students who have seen success with the software. Again, this is a wonderful tool to help retain our students. From enrollment management, Steve has already suggested that our Canisius Housing Project is off to a really good start with 56 students. And it's encouraging and suggesting that students might want housing on a more permanent basis at North and South campuses. Our admissions recruitment travel is underway. This fall we are anticipating visiting over 100 high schools, in addition to participating in college fairs. As I have done all of last year, I will be joining our admissions team to visiting as many high schools as I can to make a personal connection to principals, counselors, and the superintendents to share my vision for the new SUNY area. We also have been using these visits to promote our advanced studies opportunities for their students, which has been a growing stream of revenue for the college. And the recruitment team will be participating in 2 college fairs in New York City for the first time in a number of years, due to having a housing option to offer our students. So again, we're seeing some of the benefits of having housing for the college. Open houses are currently scheduled for October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at City North and South campuses respectively. The admissions team is working hard with marketing to promote these 3 events over the next few weeks. From HR, as Penny already suggested, we had our first successful run of payroll, which is no small thing with the Workday system, and everything has been going smoothly with this transition. And again, this is a significant milestone for us. The Workday Recruit module for employee hiring is up next with a projected go-live date of December 15th. From the foundation, the Alumni Office is creating what we're calling the Circle of Distinction Alumni Fundraising Program, which will focus on rebuilding relationships to former distinguished alums and recipients of the Distinguished Alum Award. The foundation is following the lead of the Board of Trustees in creating a foundation board team site, which will be launching soon. And 3 dates for you to remember in October. One is we will be making a major investment announcement at the STEM building on October 24th. An invitation will be forthcoming to you in the next few weeks. There will be a retirement celebration and scholarship fundraiser for Professor John Egan at Gordon Biersch on Thursday, October 25th at 4 p.m. And John has served on our faculty for 48 years, and we look forward to this opportunity to thank him for his service as well as wish him well in his retirement. And based on Lanahan's recommendation, we will be hosting a fundraising event to showcase the STEM building on November 13th. Information on this event will also be forthcoming. And my special thanks to Mike Pikevich for his good work in the foundation and having these events to look forward to. From ITS, we have a 5-year strategic plan to be recently released to the campus, and it's housed on the ITS website. ServiceNow is a new IT help desk software which we believe will improve our end user support and responsiveness, and that has been implemented. And ITS is working to create a more secure information environment through the implementation of a single sign-on with new password rules for tightening security and advanced threat protection for securing all of the email messages that go through the campus. So this will reduce phishing, malware, and virus attacks. As I've been told by ITS, I have not been a good example for our campus, as I used to employ a 3-digit password, ECC, and I understand now it was not so strong.
At least it wasn't 1, 2, 3.
How did you know my password? From IRAP, just a quick review from Middle States, and you can certainly have Fabio fill in additional details, but as I mentioned in the last board meeting, the review team has been appointed and will be arriving next Monday night. The schedule is still being finalized, but I'm hoping to meet with them and have dinner with them on Monday night. And then there will be meetings on campus all of Tuesday and Wednesday. And Thursday is scheduled as the report out day, kind of observations. There won't be a decision, but just a final report in terms of their impressions. The Middle States team has already asked for additional information requests, which is standard. Some of these were historic marketing budgets, some more recent enrollment numbers, and specifically some program enrollment numbers. Again, this is fairly standard, and we've responded to all those requests. And we've been really busy preparing for the past few weeks for this visit next week. Again, we're still finalizing the schedule, but I encourage our board to make time when we do have a time and date finalized to meet with the visiting team.
And so I think we're really in good shape, thanks to Fabio, the IRAP team, as well as our cabinet and all our faculty and staff. We're coming together at this time and being able to put our best foot forward. That's all from the President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any questions?
Me first.
Yeah.
For the advanced studies program for the high school level students, is there aid for people who can't afford it? I know right now it costs about $350 for the high school students, and if I'm not mistaken, only because my son, he was one of these students last year, the schools aren't paying for it. It's up to the students to figure out, and that leaves a lot of students in the, at least of the Buffalo public, out of the running because it's hard for them to pay for it. And if I read the statement that we received, the statements go directly to the students, and they have to say, it says something like, you know, it can be on their credit report, and it was like a really harsh statement to the students. And I was thinking like, okay, at 17 years old, a high school student shouldn't have to deal with this. So I'm thinking two things. One, is there some type of financial aid and maybe a communication, a clear communication that can go out to parents of the students and not just the students? And then two, have some type of communication to the students to let them know that it may potentially hurt their credit, even if they take the course, don't pay, and so forth.
Let me just start. It's an excellent question, and I just had a conversation with Mark Abram at McKinley, principal at McKinley, about bringing advanced studies to McKinley, but also using that as a pilot for all the Buffalo Public Schools. And so we are looking into external funding for these students in Buffalo Public. As you know, it's also a source of revenue for us. But I think Benny wants to add a few.
Well, so to the first point, Laura and I had already been talking about some of this. We are going to be looking for grant funding because this is something I think that we could easily figure out some sort of grant funding for. But as to your other suggestions, I really appreciate the feedback on those. We are currently tweaking our student services spectrum process, including our billing and our communications to the students. So those suggestions right there are absolutely something that we can incorporate into how we are interacting with the students and how we communicate with them to improve those relationships and their understanding of kind of what the expectation is, maybe further ahead than we have in the past, and do it in a way that's very customer friendly.
Absolutely. And to your point, then, yeah, it's absolutely a source of revenue for the school. So even in advance, coming up with a payment plan. So whereas it's not at the end of the semester, you receive this bill, and then the next correspondence is threatening to go on a 17-year-old's credit report.
So I've talked to Deb specifically about this and using McKinley as a pilot.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And addressing the concerns that you raised.
Thank you.
Justin, thank you. Trustee Kell?
In terms of middle states, so they're going to be here, you said next week?
Yes.
And they're going to give a final, quote-unquote, final report, like orally to
No,
you?
So they won't
On Thursday?
provide it. On Thursday is more like kind of initial impressions. Sometimes they will list accommodations, meaning like what they've seen that they like, and then generally it stops short of any formal. They will have to make a decision and get back to us at some other time.
So what's the timetable? And I apologize.
We're going to have a whole report coming up.
But like we're talking end of the year when they'll make a decision.
Yeah, why don't you start? Yeah.
Sure, I can provide a brief summary here. The timeline is as follows. We received the mission small team next week. They report out, again, as the President explained, with a fairly rough summary report of their impressions of what they've seen, in addition to their impressions on our report, the monitoring report itself. At that point, they report to the Middle States Commission through our liaison, Dr. McKittrick. That report goes to a review committee of the commission. And that committee then reports to the commission as a whole. Most of that process is taking place in mid-October to late October. By mid-November, we will have heard from the commission itself, which I believe meets on 16th or 17th, I don't know the exact date. But right around mid-November, whatever decision is made is embargoed by the commission for approximately 10 days to allow us time to prepare any press releases, etc. And so sometime around Thanksgiving, we see the public release of, by the commission of our status. So that's the overall time.
At this next Thursday, I think you said, is their last day here?
Yes, the morning.
They give you impressions or, say overall, yeah, we think we're doing pretty good, we don't have a whole lot to worry about, whatever.
Sometimes.
I realize that you talk about embargoing things and not publicly talking, but right now we're not on probation, but we're on the step.
Warning.
Correct. So if they tell you next Thursday, will they tell, is it based on your prior work out west with accreditation?
They will not say anything definitive.
Okay. They won't even give you a sign on, damn, things are looking real good.
Sometimes, I mean, I think, yeah, I've seen them if there's like, but usually not at this point.
Okay.
Is there any role for the trustees when they're in town?
Oh, yes.
So-
Yeah, we will.
Okay,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I gotta address that now.
Yeah.
So, is there any other questions for Dr. Coy before we go into the Middle States update from Fabio?
Another quick question. What department is Dr. Egan, who's retiring after more than 40 years of service in?
Business. Anything else? Fabio.
The President has covered most of the key elements. We are on track for seeking the commission members. In fact, we just heard from them that we're getting close to finalizing the agenda. The business day will be the 3rd. So that will be when all of the business meetings of the small team will be conducted. All of them will be conducted at North Campus in G, 100 or 106. We will also have a separate space for any overflow available in STEM as well, and we will have office space available for commission visitors as well as for our student liaison, Dr. Deborah Mack, who will be on hand for the entire visit. The role of the board is fundamental to the entire accreditation process, and we invite participation anytime on the 3rd. That would be the only current slot that we have firmed up and that we cannot change is 2 p.m. on that day. Anything else is really open for your consideration. We can also obviously do a preparation session if you are interested. We will probably do that either on the 1st or the 2nd or any other time that you needed to have that done. And we also have a preparation guide that we will pass along to anybody that participates in the visit as well.
You're not suggesting that we have individual meetings with them, that you're looking for?
No, it would be ideal if we could prepare a single session, but you are also welcome to sit in on any of the others as well. You are trustees and you are engaged in this process. If you want to sit in on any of the other meetings, then we will certainly make that recommendation.
And it's a very good signal, by the way, our presence.
Could you send us a schedule of all the meetings and activities?
Yeah, I can. It has been a real work in progress, but I can certainly send you what we have right now, and it's subject to change, but certainly.
And it'll come together in the next, so we can give you updates as it goes along. The question that I have for trustees is, are you inclined to work through a session, or would it be possible, do you feel it could be effective in conducting it by a voice call? We can all dial in.
And we can conduct multiple sessions as well, if that's more convenient for them.
There's nothing formal in as far as your responsibilities as a report, other than participation to being there and demonstrating. But it's certainly helpful, and I'm sure for all of our confidence of understanding the subject matter of preparations. So it's up to you if you'd like to conduct that. We volunteer. We could have something on the phone. You could dial in if you so choose. we could have it more formal if you so choose, whatever you would like to do.
Given the late notice on this and time schedule, I mean, to me, a breakfast meeting with everybody early would work. So
For the first or the third?
For the third.
Third, yeah.
But the preference is that we're together at 2 p.m.
No, sorry, I'm sorry. No, that's the one slide.
That's the slide I can't do.
Yeah, that's the one slide that I can't give away.
Oh, okay. So you'll inform us when we should. All right.
And again, obviously, take into account the fact that we're dealing with a commission that doesn't answer to us. We have to take due care that they are setting the agenda to a large extent, and also setting the timing of those meetings to a large extent. And within those constraints, we will work with the trustees.
All right, and you'll let us know. Okay.
You said it's a proposed prep time, like for just a call on Monday?
Yeah. Why don't I do that? I'll set up 2 or 3 different call times.
That'd be great.
Just so that
I'm
you all
gonna
have
have to put
options,
it on
and
Monday
if you need to call at different times, that's fine.
Okay.
That prep session does not have to be held with all of you present.
And are you thinking this is a 30-minute prep session, 20-minute?
An hour. The preparation guide is approximately 4 pages. Just reading that alone, I think will be a very good preparation on its own, and then we can use the time on the call to address any questions that you might
When will we get that?
have today. I'll send that right after this meeting.
Is this going to be done, if it's a call, is it going to be done in webinar form or just a phone call?
We can do that. We can set up a WebEx.
Okay, so if you set up a WebEx, is it possible to have it recorded? I'm just nervous about Monday that won't work.
Perfectly. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We can record that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else in the report that you like to report?
No, I think I've reported out on the substance of the report before, so I don't want to belabor that. If any of you have any questions about the substance at this point after you read the preparation guide, certainly shoot me an email or send me something.
Any other questions you may have?
That leaves me at promise. At risk of asking a politic question, or if you can't answer, for not answer our sensitivity to the commission, feel free to tell me or not myself how you. Is there any sense from the college on how things go? In other words, you're interacting with all these staff members and colleagues from their colleges that are part of their team that they're reviewing us. Are you getting a sense from them that they're pleased with the progress we've made and the data we're giving them, or are they very cagey and like Rick, who would never smile, never shows any emotion whatsoever? They're not giving us any sense.
I could just say that I am encouraged by the fact that we are having a dialogue through the data sharing, and that's a good sign for us. I think it's important to build a relationship with review team members with any kind of compliance effort, and to that end, I have been encouraged by the fact that they are curious, they are interested, they're asking for data that I would ask as a reviewer. So I have not seen anything untoward in their requests. Nothing has been inappropriate. I think that is all too good. So if I could leave it at that, that's how I would characterize it so far. I can't say, obviously, how well it's going without being able to actually engage the members directly and have that conversation.
Thank you. Thanks, Fabio.
Thank you.
Mr. President, anything else to report? Then we'll move on. Thank you very much for your report. I appreciate it. Next is the student trustee report. Okay.
Thank you. It's been a great September so far. We've had hundreds and hundreds of students attend dozens of events at each campus. It's very exciting. We kind of took an approach. We spent the entire summer gearing up for September, and everything went on without a hitch. We're very excited. Personally, what I've been working on is trying to align myself with key individuals to really make the student experience easy and seamless throughout the entire ecosystem of student area. We're in talks with Guide Talk at UB. We want to make a type of bridge program. It's similar to Merit, if you know about that, where we can kind of have our students who are on a 4-year path, this is their 2-year current situation, have a seamless transfer, so they have a kind of a group of individuals that they know already at the UB campus. It's really exciting. we suffered a loss, good loss recently. We're losing one of our SGA members. This individual is going on to a multinational company in human resources, making $50,000 a year. He will still be a SUNY student, but online. So we're so excited and proud of him for that. And lastly, moving forward, October, we're gearing up for a very survey-based month. So at all of our events, we're going to be receiving a lot of feedback from students of exactly what their experience has been in the past and what they want moving forward, so we can present quantified data to get things done versus kind of just discussion. So thank you for listening.
Any questions? Comments? Not being said, thank you very much for the report. That was uplifting. Next item is the, we did College Senate affiliated entities report. We've heard something as it relates to advancing the foundation already. Unless there's any specific questions, I'll defer that for time, because we're kind of getting stocked in time right now. Anything else anyone wants to add, or questions that we want to have for a future response? But not being said, any old business? None being said, new business. We have some new business. Okay, Denise.
I'll be quick.
Trustee Wilson.
I had the privilege to attend the NYCCT meeting to represent SUNY Erie this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And at the 64th annual conference, the one thing I want to say is I am bringing some of you with me next time. So just be prepared. I'm signing
Is that a threat or a good thing?
It's a good thing, because as I sit there and I think, Tim will have a great question right now. Ladies, think of that question. Susan will have a great question. Tal will have a great question. And I'm trying to be, just as I try to learn more and bring back to SUNY Erie so we can become a stronger board and a more informed board, it is important that we are there. And because I'm very competitive, I don't want to be the only one with one person there. So, I am also going to be joining some of their committees and to be more involved on that level. So I am excited about that. I mean, we can go over the agenda later with, you know, I'll write up something. I'm still on notes. I've been from one conference to another conference to another conference. So I just have to get my notes together. But it was very informative. There was actually a Middle States presentation there. And Tim, you would have got all those questions answered, but I can tell you that they are not showing there in the card. So, I tried a little bit. And yeah, so that's it. I will write up my report summary and give it to everyone and go from there.
I'm delighted you brought that up. Thank you. And personal editorial from NYCCT, I think that the history, starting even before Susan and I began to learn through NYCCT, it was a long tradition of the SUNY trustees at Erie to participate, from officers' positions, etc., committee positions. So it's a wonderful educational piece. I'm going to transfer right into, from the statewide college trustees annual meeting to the ACCT, which is all of the Americas, out to Guam, I believe. Will be conducted in October. And it's the reason why I'm emphasizing it to you, it's an easy shot because it's actually in New York City this year, very close to us. So if it's part of your consideration, please let us know, specifically Kelly, etc., just to set that up. And I'm going to add one more editorializing. I get to be the key speaker at one of the major events for the chairman of the board.
What is it?
Coming up.
When?
It's in October 20.
4th,
Thank you.
5th, and 6th.
Thank you very much.
4th and 6th.
24th, 25th.
Okay.
So that will be
This year. Oh, coming up.
Okay. So that's that for ACCT. Thank you for introducing this whole piece.
Just to add to that, if the rooms online are saying it's booked, you can call Noah or his team and they can figure out another arrangement, just so you know.
Yeah. We can make that connection. Gail's been using it for years, so Gail can probably help you out a little bit.
So
Even
Gail
though-
does.
We have
bachelor candidate next season?
We do have a board meeting scheduled for this week.
I said bachelor, I meant apartment, you visit your lovely daughter down
I don't recall.
Do we need to change the board meeting on the 25th?
That will be the determination of the officers going forward.
We will look at that.
Okay, if that makes sense. I think traditionally what we've done in that manner, thank you for bringing that up, is we identified really who was going to be going to that, how it would impact the attendance of the meeting, etc. So that's it for new business. One other item I'd like to bring forward, and this is kind of somewhat exceptional. It's really exceptional for the trustee, but somewhat exceptional for us to introduce this because it really doesn't have any direct impact on our business, but it's something that we should all know. Buffalo's John Elmore, Mr. Elmore, is the first African-American attorney to convene the 8th Judicial District Convention. This is something very important, distinguished, and special, and that's why I thought it would be important to conduct this part of our new business today, and congratulations to you, sir.
Woo!
Thank you very much.
Just a comment, I was at that meeting and John did a terrific job. He had full command of the agenda, and it was just an honor to watch him present.
Thank you very much.
Super. And as a representative, as a trustee, it once again just shows how far we're advancing and going and reaching into the community to make certain that we're at the right places at the right time. So thank you on the new business. I believe, unless there's any other new business, yes, sir?
I have a couple items really quickly.
Okay.
First is, we had some back and forth about I guess it's technically old business, I apologize, about the 2018-2019 board schedule. And there was a session that we might talk about it today. In terms of, I know for some people, Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. continues to be the best.
Yes, that hasn't gotten lost. I would like to defer that, frankly, till we make our officers election. Is that okay?
Sure. Second question of new business. I sent out an email last week and then again Monday asking us to call questions. I don't know how many of my colleagues, I know I saw some people on the video for the 3 provost candidates that were on campus last week and earlier this week. Saw a few of you, including Lynn, in the audience. I watched it on YouTube, and I'd asked a question on what is the process and protocol under which the search is, if someone, I was just asking, at what point is the board involved? What happens next?
Next steps? Is that what the question is?
Sure, yeah. So Penny's the chair of the search committee for provost, so she can tell.
First of all, I apologize for anyone that was not aware that we were doing the provost search. We've been talking about it since last spring, made it part of the budget as we were doing the transition. So if that was not clearly communicated, I do apologize for that. We put the job description, or we put the ad out in June, late May, early June, and left it open for a couple months and kind of looked at candidates as we went through the summer. We had the committee pulled together. It was inclusive of Mr. Pekevich, myself. We had the AACC president on it. We had FFECC representation. We had Colleen Anderson, chair, was on it. We had Dr. Wachowski was on it. So we had a very comprehensive committee to start looking at these applications. We had roughly 35 to 40 applicants total. The first round of review for those applicants was based on a score of how each one of us felt that the candidates met the criteria that we had outlined in the job description, and so those were compiled, and the top 10 candidates were selected to move into a phone interview. So before we made it to the phone interview, 2 of our candidates dropped out. In fact, 2 of our top candidates dropped out. They had already been snatched up somewhere else. So we did phone interviews with 8 candidates, and we did that as the team sitting around the table together and talking with them on the phone. That one was based on kind of who we felt the top 5 candidates were, because we had some really strong people apply. So we narrowed it down to the top 5 to do a WebEx interview with. the WebEx interview, we expanded the number of people that we had at the table to be more inclusive of some of the other direct reports and all to the provost unit. Conducted those 2 or 3 weeks ago in this room, and from there narrowed it down to our top 3 candidates that you then saw in the presentations over the course of the last 2 weeks. We were very focused on ensuring that it was a very inclusive search, that it was a very comprehensive search, and that as many people as possible had eyes on candidates by the time we got to the end, and are providing us feedback right now as we get through the end of tomorrow. The committee will come back together next week. We will look at all of the feedback that we have. We will have our own discussions on how we felt about how the candidates presented, of course, across the course of the day that they were on campus. When they were on campus, they met with multiple constituencies. They were busy from 8:30 in the morning until probably 8 o'clock at night, meeting and talking with people and giving impressions themselves. So we will take all of that into consideration. We will put together our recommendations to the president on who we want and for second and third options, along with why we are doing that. We will provide those to Dr. McCoy, who will then sit and review that information and then bring it to you all with his recommendation for hire.
Is the timetable on that November agenda for us?
October agenda? October agenda, yes. So, and in talking with each of the 3 candidates, we're probably looking at a January start date for the provost.
Okay. Thank you. So the next item are
one of the new business, and for time reasons, maybe I'll just throw it out there, and Penny, you could talk offline. We're at the October 9th Financial Health Committee meeting.
Okay.
But I had some questions about the tuition installment plan and the bad debt pool.
Yes.
And students that may have been showing in the system as enrolling but hadn't made payments to the college and perhaps will never show up on campus or attend the college, and what happens to them, whether they go into the bad debt pool, whether they get probably the word a letter or letters or communications from the college telling them you enrolled, you didn't show up, you didn't pay, we demand you pay, or we take you to a collection agency, because I know we hire collection agencies to pursue people. And I just wanted to, again, we can have a dialogue at Dennis in the interest of time, but I want to throw it out there that I had some calls from people expressing some concerns on this, and I wanted to have a dialogue.
If it's really not all that, it's important, I'm not suggesting that. Time-sensitive issues, maybe you two can go offline.
That's what I was going to say. We've been working very hard on trying to make this a much better process this semester, but there's a lot of detail that we can talk about offline that I think will help allay some of the concerns that you may have heard.
Okay. So we'll plan to talk about that at the October 9th Financial Health Committee meeting.
Yes.
For any board members who want to attend.
Yeah.
And we can report back out later in October. Okay, thank you. Anything else? We'll move on next. There is an indication that we're going to have an executive session, so if someone would like to make a motion.
So moved.
Trustee Lanahan, seconded by the secretary. Thank you. The purpose of is multiple matters as it relates to the president's personnel review and also potential litigation matters involving personnel. So any other questions before we take a vote? That being said, all those in favor go to executive session. Any opposed? None being noted. Actually carries. And would you like a 2-minute break?
Yes.
Okay.
Wednesdays are next week, so that must not be.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, trustees, we are out of executive session, and we've moved back. We'd like to make official the actions taken in executive session. Madam Secretary, will you read?
Yes, the trustees were briefed on some litigation. The trustees made a motion to move item 4 from the talent management agenda, which is a current position of Director of Athletics, to a title change to the Advancement Athletic Director. The motion was moved by Trustee Hogler, seconded by me. The vote was 6 in favor, 2 opposed. Trustees Callan and Elmore opposed. Trustees Hogler, Lenahan, Masiello, Murphy, and Wilson, and Adebayo in favor. The last item, no, there were 2 more items. Talent management, item number 3, the change in job title from talent management officer to director of human relations. The vote in favor of that was 7-1, moved by Trustee Hogler and seconded by Trustee Lenahan. The no vote was Trustee Callan, and the yes votes were Trustee Elmore, Hogler. Yes, Elmore, Hogler, Lenahan, Masiello, Murphy, Wilson, and Adebayo. And lastly, there was a motion to accept the 2017-2018 incentive bonus based on the President's evaluation as part of Dr. Ripoy's contract. Motion to accept that was moved by Trustee Lenahan, moved by Trustee Adebayo, seconded by Trustee Lenahan, unanimously approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Susan was absent.
Yes, so, and we only had 8 trustees present, because Trustee Swartz had to leave for Dr. Smart.
Okay. So as we move to the climax of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the next item that we moved down here was the nominating committee report. Trustee Schwartz had a medical commitment that she had to depart early from the meeting. So I'm going to ask one of the nominating committee members to bring forward the report and present a slate of officers for the next 2 years.
All right. Yes, the trustees were polled, nominations were submitted, and the following trustees were nominated for the following positions. Chair, Len Lenahan. There were no other nominations. Vice Chair, Denise Wilson. There were no other nominations. Secretary, Kate Masiello. There were no other nominations. So that is our slate. Chair, now I should say, I mean, it's not that people weren't nominated. It's not that some people didn't accept the nominations and so on. But these are the 3 that were both nominated and accepted the nominations. So in review, Chair, Len Lenahan, Vice Chair, Denise Wilson, Secretary, Kate Masiello, and I would like to make a motion that we...
First and second, comments on the slate. The only comments that I'd like to add to it is I think it's phenomenal. And number 2, that an abundance of time was invested by Trustee Schwartz and the committee to speak and reach out to each person individually to understand what their true interests and desires were and their limitations as far as time and other commitments. And I think the outcome is just fabulous, and I'm very excited about it. That's my editorializing, and I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You vote.
None opposed, it's unanimous. We have a new slate of officers. Thank you very much. So stay tuned for some more events coming up. We have to have one more piece of business. And
I just have a comment. These are big shoes to fill. And I think, Dennis, all of us on this board
Oh, you would, that are gratitude. Just the, the level of commitment and service has been extraordinary. So our first order of business is going to be to come up with a proper way to celebrate Dennis's service and Susan and Kate's for this last term. And but we will do that in conjunction with you. And but my primary feeling today is one of humility to follow somebody like you as board chair.
Very kind words. Thank you so much. We'll have a lot of time to talk.
Thank you. You're not leaving.
He's still there. He's still there.
I'm in his chair today. You see me today, right? I'm left. We have one other item of business that I'd like to conduct before I ask a closing of business for the day, and that is a report from Human Resources regarding a retirement.
I'm sorry. So I'm just announcing that we're accepting retirement of Darlene Willis, who worked as our Chief Diversity Officer when she was here. And her retirement is effective would be July 5, 2017.
Great. It's so noted, and many years of service were provided by Darlene. May I have a motion to adjourn for the day? Thanks, God, I'm glad this meeting's over. We had a lot of work over there, wasn't it, today? We have a motion, we have a second.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.